It's Instructor Poole, and I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about our research project, which serves as a sort of capstone project for the very end of our semester. There's actually three phases to this project. There's a proposal in which you will be proposing your topic and doing some preliminary research. There's the research project itself, and then there is a vlog post which you'll be doing about your research project. I'll talk about that last phase of it in a later video down the road, but today I want to talk about the proposal and the project. Now, the proposal is due first. It's due in the next to last week of our class, I believe. I don't have the schedule here in front of me, but it's due a week ahead of the research project, and you can refer to the calendar for the exact dates on that, but these are both due near the very end of our semester. So even though the project proposal is due first, I'm going to take a look at the research project itself first because you need to know what that's about before you start doing the proposal. Let me make this a little bigger for us. All right, so in this project, you're going to be choosing one of two options. Let's talk about those options first. Option one has to do with dyslexia and teaching reading. For this option, you're going to be researching dyslexia, which, as I'm sure most of you know, is a type of learning disability which affects people learning literacy because it affects the way that they see and process visual information and letters and things like that. So obviously, that's kind of a problem when it comes to teaching younger kids how to read. What you're going to be doing is researching what dyslexia is and what kinds of approaches teachers have come up with in order to teach dyslexic kids how to read using children's books. Excuse me. You're going to be designing a reading unit using books from the Tumble Books database. You should be familiar with that. I'll be happy to give you a refresher on how to find that if you would like. But both of these projects do require that you use books that are available through the Tumble Books database. Your project must include a research overview. We'll see the word counts as we go through the things here. In this one, you should define dyslexia, explain what it is, what it's not, discuss common challenges that dyslexic readers face, and then connect the research that you've done to what you're going to do in the latter parts of this project, which is come up with an actual classroom practice to help teach kids how to learn to read. You're going to be selecting books. You will be using, again, the Tumble Books database. You get a couple of options here. If you're interested in younger readers, those are, books tend to be much shorter, picture books and sort of learn to read type books. We covered those early on in our semester. You should select at least 5 books. If you are more interested in older readers or the types of literature that older readers read, those books tend to be longer, chapter books aimed at middle school grades and things like that, then you should have at least 2 books. You should explain why those books work together as a unit, and you can put those books together in any way that you see fit. Maybe they have, similar themes. Maybe they are by the same author. Maybe they, have a familiar structure or something like that. But as you're selecting the books, think about what makes them sort of hang together as a unit. You're also going to be coming up with a teaching unit and lesson plans using the reading list that you've chosen. This one does not have to be an essay form. In fact, I think it would probably be better if you did it as a classroom calendar or as an itemized list of the types of things that you want. What you're essentially doing here are coming up with lesson plans. You should identify the age and grade level that you've selected, what kind of goals you have for the unit, how many weeks this might cover, things like that. And you're going to want to provide detailed lesson plans built around those books. One thing that's key here, I put this in bold text because this will be one of the things I'll emphasize as I'm grading, is that you should reference moments from the text directly. So there should be actual references to the text of these books in your project. If you choose option 2, you're going to be thinking back to Jessamine Ward's Magic Mirrors essay that we read way back in the beginning of the semester. And if you recall, that was about the importance of inclusivity and representation in children's literature. So for this one, what you're going to want to do is to imagine that you have a diverse classroom. You can think along the lines of, different races, ethnicities, all sorts of gender identities, neurodivergence, anything like that. That you're sort of imagining, like, a very diverse classroom, like one that you might have out in the real world. You're going to want to do some research, much like you did research on dyslexia in the first unit. In this one, you are going to be doing some research about the importance of representation and inclusivity when it comes to selecting books and curating books for children or for younger readers. Jessamine Ward kind of she touches on this idea that there are some books are mirror books. Children can kind of see themselves in the stories, and that's important. But it's also important to have what she calls window books, and that is, things that can give us insight into others' lives. I think that obviously it's very important for kids to see themselves in books. All sorts of children should be able to, like, see characters that are in some way like themselves that they can kind of relate to, but also think that it's important for us, just as people, but maybe especially as young people and readers, to be able to read books about people with other identities as well. It helps us to develop empathy and just, be part of the, more sensitive part of the world that we live in. You're also going to want to do something very similar to what you did in the first option. If you chose that one, you're going to choose a very specific grade level or age group, and select books that are appropriate to that grade level with the same um, requirements that we talked about before. You should include a mix of mirror and window text for the classroom that you have imagined, and explain how each one of them kind of functions in that regard. Much like in option 1, you're then going to come up with a teaching plan, create a unit or a series of lessons. And like in the first one, this one does not have to be an essay form. This one can be, lesson plans, a classroom calendar, those kind of things as well. I'll let you read this part of it at your leisure. This is the evaluation criteria, or how I will be grading these projects. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. But let's roll back up to the top here. I skipped over this part to begin with because I wanted to start with the topics. But regardless of which topic you choose, your in addition to the written aspect, you should include at least 4 images. Those can be images from the books, any kind of classroom visuals, materials that you create, images that might help give context, those kind of things. These should be real images, not AI generated, and you should credit them properly where appropriate. You'll also be using, in addition to the texts, the books that you select, you should also have at least 4 credible research sources. We'll talk a little bit more about what makes for good credible research as we get closer to this down the road. But please note that at least 2 of those should come from Central Carolina library databases. I will assume that most of you are more or less familiar with how to do research given those library databases, since obviously you've been through English 101 and 102, or you wouldn't be in this course. But I will give you kind of a refresher on that as we get closer to the time where this comes up on the semester. All right. If you have any questions about that, as I said earlier, please don't hesitate to let me know. That's the research project itself. As for the proposal, what you will essentially be doing here is you're starting the preliminary research for your project and just kind of thinking about your research project. You can think about this as if you're kind of pitching your idea to me, if you will. You're essentially going to be identifying your topic and starting your research. So your proposal should identify which topic option that you've chosen. Give me a brief overview of where you are in the process. How far along are you? What kind of challenges do you foresee? If you have any questions that you want me to address, you can pitch them here as well. Just kind of give me an idea of what where your thinking is as you start working on this project in earnest. From there, you're going to start your research. And again, I'll give you a refresher on these databases a little later in the semester. But for this proposal, you will be finding at least 2 sources from CCT databases. These should be scholarly articles. We'll also give you a refresher on that, what that means as we get closer to the time as well. These should be articles about the topics in some way, not the books themselves that you're choosing. That's kind of separate. For each one of those research sources, you're going to give a full citation. I like MLA style because I'm an English professor, obviously, but I know that a lot of y'all are in disciplines where you're more familiar with APA style, so that's fine if you're using that as well. You're going to give a brief summary of each of your 2 sources and a brief explanation of how you plan to use it. Will this be something that you include in your overview, or is this part of the rationale for what you're going to actually be teaching in this unit, those kind of things? I've given you one freebie article. You do not have to use one of these, but you can if you would like. These links should work, but they're not going to work from this video. But if you go back to our content area, and I'm sorry, the assignment itself, and click on them, they should work. You probably have to be logged in to my CCTC for them to work, since these are from the databases. You can also find both of these as well in the Academic Search Complete database if for some reason the links don't work. But there's an article here for option 1. This one is about a successful conventional approach to helping dyslexic children acquire literacy or learn to read. As you'll see when you start doing the research, there's a lot of different approaches to that. Here's one of them. And if you would like to take advantage of option 2 on representation and inclusivity, here's another source as well, which you can use if you would like. And it fits with the approach that you're taking to the project as well. Again, you don't have to use one of those sources for the proposal or for the project, but if you can, if you'd like to, you can. And I just kind of wanted to give you, a head start and an example of the kinds of sources, things that we'd be looking for down the road. So that's a quick overview of our research project. As I said, there's also a vlog portion of this, like a reflection that you'll do after you complete the project, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So stay tuned for that, and stay tuned also for some more information about doing the research in the databases and things like that.